Good evening, everyone. We are here with yet another virtual session, and today our session will begin with a very interesting topic in the nutrition, and it would be taken by the speaker today, Taruni Seth. She have done her schooling from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Pune, and she has opted for the board exam and from the SNDT College of Home Science, Pune. She have continued her graduation in the same college and completed bachelor's degree in BSc Home Science and Nutrition and Dietetics. She is pursuing master's degree from Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences in clinical nutrition and dietetics. She is practicing yoga from past 3 to 4 years, and now she is learning from the Institute of Iyengar Yoga. And she has interned for content writing and have written few chapters for diploma students. With this small introduction, I welcome you on our platform, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll share my screen and we'll begin with the session then. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. So when Bhavit approached me and I didn't know that he would really give me a good opportunity to come up with this topic, and he himself gave me this topic, and I myself researched about it because it's the same field I'm learning into past almost 5 years now. So it's a great opportunity to share this small piece of knowledge with everyone today. So, role of clinical nutrition education in preventing chronic disease. So, already Bhavit has given my brief introduction, and I'm pursuing my master's currently from Symbiosis Institute of Health Science in clinical nutrition dietetics. So let's come to the concept of health. So as we all know that according to WHO, health has been defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So with this concept of health, we get to know that there are various aspects connected to it, like different types of diseases, different types of disabilities that are connected to our human body. So now, what is nutrition and why does nutrition play a really important role in our life? So nutrition is said to be, in a very simple words, like consumption of a balanced diet consisting of all 5 food groups as well as the essential nutrients required for the growth and development at every stage of life can be defined as nutrition, as well as its relationship between diet, health, and diseases. So as we know that nutrition can even enhance our health, and if there is a little overnutrition that is in our body, it can even create a lot of problems. So this balanced diet, so we have learned from we have heard from our nani and dadis that pura khana, puri thali bhar ke khana khao, chapati khao, dal khao. So what is this exact composition? It is a composition of all 5 food groups which come together. They give all the types of nutrients, essential minerals and vitamins to us, and this is the most basic concept that we have been taught at home since we start taking bites of food from our own hands. So what is clinical nutrition? So clinical nutrition is learning about the diagnosis and treatment of disease that affect the intake, absorption, and metabolism of diet, nutrients consumed through food, and its relationship with prevention of diet related diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, etc. So I, being a student of clinical nutrition, I have learned that apart from only planning a diet plan and only just calculating the calories on a calculator is just not the part of it. Clinical nutrition is more than that. We as a clinical nutritionist, we look into individual's life. We take their life into our hands. We make them a partner, that you and us, we will make it together to whatever problems you are going through. We consult them. We are a part of their entire journey, and counseling is a very crucial part of clinical nutrition. So learning clinical nutrition, when we hear about clinical nutrition as just a lame like definition, we just know that yeah, we are going to calculate some calories, we are going to give a diet plan to the person, and that's it, that's our role done. But the actual work behind it is totally different. We have to, from the day one, from the patient or any individual approaches us, from that day one till day, like in number of days, we have to look after them. We have to know what is the exact disease procedure that they have gone through. So we look into their biochemical parameters, we look into their every aspect of life. We even ask them that what type of food do you eat. So when we ask them that, we know the core problem of their chronic disease that they are going through. So for example, let's take for example a child, maybe a 15-year-old adolescent. He or she is going through obesity, or maybe they are going through some mental disorder related to eating, like eating disorders like anorexia nervosa. So over here, they need to be counseled really well. We need to know the basic counseling, that this person, that we need to tell them that what are the actual aspects of eating a proper food, mindfully eating, and why does that affect them so much. They will say that खाना सिर्फ खाने से फर्क पड़ता है, but the only thing is that until and unless their mind, body and food is not connected, you won't see the results. And that's how clinical nutrition comes into place, where it takes in all the aspects of diagnosis, it treats the disease, it looks after its patient, and they even keep a track of them, that is their mental health properly tackled by themselves, or do they need more help. So as a clinical nutrition, this is the basic idea which I have been learning since past so many years, and I would even put it into my practice. And I would also tell others that, be a part of everyone's diet or therapy journey, because it is the most crucial, because we are connected by food, and that's the most basic thing that we always want to be with. So whenever person comes tired at home, he or she really wants food to eat. So that is the reason why clinical nutrition plays a very, very important role in chronic diseases, or maybe any kind of disease. So what are the some benefits of clinical nutrition these days? So it slows the process of the symptoms that have developed by the following nutrition components of nutrition care process and medical nutrition therapy. They go hand in hand. So what is nutrition care process? Nutrition care process is a systematic process where we look into the person from its A, B, C, and D. So what is A? From anthropometric, from biochemical, then clinical signs and symptoms diagnosis, and then we look into their diet plan. So diet plan is the part of medical nutrition therapy. So over there, we see their biochemical parameters, we analyze each and every component. So analyzing each and every component is the part of nutrition care process and medical nutrition therapy, which collectively makes clinical nutrition a one component. So when these two processes go hand in hand, it makes sure that the person is healthy, and whenever he or she goes back home, they are like they are maintaining this health, and they are managing and like in day to day life, they they at times go off track, they don't want to eat a certain type of food. So you need to keep connecting with them, that like we are together and we need to do something about it, because at times they get really influenced by the foods which are sold outside, or maybe some of their friends tell them that no, the diet plan didn't suit me, why are you even taking it. So these things really need to be taken care of, and that's the reason medical nutrition therapy and its day to day like day to day collective of experience need to be taken care of. Then closely monitor of dietary intake of an individual along with calorie, nutrient and other components. Just as I said in the first point, that we need to know about each and every step that they are eating. Are they eating or not? Are they not eating, or they're just lying about it, that I ate, but they are not open up to that process. So we need to make sure this kind of environment is made friendly to them, and they open up to us. Until unless they don't open up, even we are at a point that no, maybe this person doesn't want to eat this, I'll change the diet plan. So again, that person might say something, no, I don't like eating this. So they need to open up with this process of nutrition care process and medical nutrition therapy. And prevention of other disease to occur. So for example, when a person is having some kind of comorbidity, for example hypertension, and the person is being treated with it along with medication and food, and the person is not following the both the cases, like not the medical medicines and nor the food, it can happen that they can attract other diseases, and they can get into double comorbidities, and the immune system goes into compromise. And that is the reason why people have been, there has been articles saying that people who are having hypertension and diabetes are more susceptible to COVID-19. And that is the reason why people who are above 60 of age are getting targeted to this. And that's the reason why a proper nutrition therapy should be followed day to day, so that this type of problem doesn't happen. Then using various food combination for betterment of the individual. So in being a clinical nutritionist, we have our own biases. So we kind of try to consider that whatever I like, my client will also like. We also consider that maybe this type of food is available at their end, but we don't know that why. We don't know that which part of India are they staying in, like what type of budget do they have. So these things we really need to, these are really small things we need to know about it. And that's the reason why various food combinations can help them. So there are likes and dislikes, there are allergies, there are ethnicity, like for example a person is from Maharashtra or a person is from a south. So these things need to be taken care of, that they are particular food which they are eating since they have started to eat a solid food. Those things should need to be taken care of. And food compositions combinations can be made very interesting and very healthy. And it is not just like you're on diet or you need to only eat boiled type of food. It is not like that. Using various food combinations, the food can be made really yummy, and it can be really made tasty for the person who is having it. So dieting is not about only boring foods, it's more than about it. So let's come to our topic, that what is meant by chronic disease. So as defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, chronic disease is something that lasts longer, more than a month or even a year. It causes to limit the daily activities and attract other disease as well. So if a person is dealing from chronic disease since a month or more than a month, or maybe he or she is going through it even a year, they restrict to their daily activities. They feel lethargic. They don't feel like having any strength to do any type of work. They can't even, they just want to lie down and rest. They even quit from their jobs, and they even go into depression knowing that I can't do anything. And they don't understand that this chronic disease is pulling them down. So when they are at their most endangered stage, they understand that yeah, I need to do something. And that's the point where the thinking of the individual should be changed, that the moment you feel that something is happening to you, please approach to your doctor. Because with this fact that saying that no, nothing would happen to me, you never know that what are the other consequences that you are carrying with yourself under the name of chronic disease. So these are various types of chronic disease, such as hypertension, obesity, cancer, mental disorders like anorexia nervosa, which comes along with underweight. Then there is insulin resistance syndrome, where due to obesity there is so much of fat deposition that insulin becomes resistant in the body itself, and it can lead to type 2 diabetes as it is. And even obesity can lead to CVDs. and more of hypertension, like leading to hypertension. All these components are connected to each other. So these are a few few numbers which the ICMR or some papers have collected, that what is the exact obesity rate in India. So for now, there are 135 million individuals that are affected by obesity. And this has been claimed by ICMR study, which happened in 2015. And this has led to major risk factors for cardiovascular diseases. Then coming to what is the rates in heart disease and CVD. So compared to the obesity in India, it is about 4.77 million, and currently in the current year. And coronary heart disease prevalence rate in India have been estimated in two parts. One is the rural area and one is in the urban settlements. Then third is the diabetes. So diabetes is a fast gaining status of a potential epidemic in India, with more than 62 million diabetic individuals currently diagnosed with disease. So in India, currently in 2000, they had a study which it showed that 31.7 million topped the world with the highest number of people with diabetes mellitus. So it is, we can see with these numbers that how prevalent the chronic diseases have become in India, and its education is so important to for everyone to know that the chronic diseases can be dealt with diet, proper lifestyle, and it can be prevented. And giving this knowledge to people has become very important. There are various papers that they say that only and only the lifestyle changes can turn over the chronic diseases. Until and unless the lifestyle changes or a mental state is not changed, this process can't happen. So if for example, if a person comes to me and says, I'm this obese, or these are my issues, and they get a blood profile done, and I see through that, and I see that the levels are really high, and the person has only come from through a contact of the doctor saying that कि आपके इतने इतने blood profile बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, आप please जाके dietitian को दिखाइए. So when they come to us, they already have a mental blockage कि हाँ डॉक्टर ने तो सिर्फ ऐसे ही बोल दिया, but they don't know the back story of it, that the food is the main cause of these chronic diseases. They don't know that the amount of food that they have been eating, is it healthy for them or is it not. When they do this blood profile, they come to know that I'm getting into a non-healthy lifestyle, and that's the reason why they come to a dietitian. Either they are very open-minded or they have blockage, and this blockage needs to be removed from people's mind when they come to approach even a physician or a dietitian, to know that the health is the most important. Because once the chronic disease starts, it can lead to many other problems, and it's best to stop it at the right time and right away. Yeah, so reasons for a chronic disease to develop are poor nutrition, lifestyle changes, stress, lack of exercise, smoking, alcohol, genetic or heredity. So genetically also some people can have chronic disease, just like we say, like, yeah, in my genes I have like hypertension or diabetes problems. Then lack of exercise can be due to the excessive packed schedule of our day. We don't get time to exercise or do anything like that. Poor nutrition comes because poor nutrition is something like you can reverse it, but the lifestyle changes, like proper sleep, then tobacco use, all these need to be cut down in the proper way. And that's how, and even these days we have a genomics that is coming up, in which we study genes that are pertaining to our nutrients. We study that, we come to know that which is a gene which is more prominent, and some part of it is studied, and we can make a personalized or customized diet for them. For example, taking obesity again. So if a person is going through obesity since childhood, or they already have obesity running in their family, they can get a genetic profiling done, and they can know that is this obesity gene dominant in them or recessive in them. If it is dominant, they can start doing this intervention right away, and that would like be a good prevention from the chronic disease to develop. So what is the role of clinical nutrition in prevention of chronic disease? So far I've been talking about these same things. So the leading cause of chronic disease worldwide is not only restricted to genetics or heredity, but it is the rapid changes in environmental factors, diet, sleep pattern, disturbance of the circadian rhythm. Then poor nutrition is linked to chronic diseases such as cancer, type 2 diabetes, mellitus, cardiovascular, social, psychological, and emotional wellness of an individual. So generally we say that if a person is sad, they don't eat, they overeat or they undereat. So this overeating or undereating can be a problem later on in life because they don't realize at that point of time, because they are not emotionally stable. To prevent this disease, it requires changes in behaviors related to smoking, physical activity, and diet, and investment in education. So, getting people educated about why nutrition plays a very important role in reversing these chronic diseases is very important. Food policies and urban physical infrastructure are needed to support and encourage these changes. So, talking about education, these education can be imparted in various schools, then in IT sector, then at old age homes as well. So there are various people who are going through diabetes in old age homes, and they can be given a good education over what to eat and what not to eat, and how do they regulate their insulin balance in their day-to-day life. Then as the risk of developing chronic disease can be reduced at any age, people of all ages are encouraged to eat healthy foods, maintain their weight, and exercise. So as earlier I said that once a person is, if a person is open minded, they would positively take into the idea of getting the proper nutrition and having a healthy lifestyle. So it can be reduced at any age, at any point of time, once the person is very positive about doing it. So the blockage of not considering the chronic disease, like they may, just I said, that they don't like being said that yeah, you are fat, or maybe you don't look good in these clothes. So this type of mentality changes their mind, saying that they go into the negative thoughts, and they don't come to a nutritionist, and they don't try to talk it out, which can be harmful for their further life as well. So, how to prevent chronic disease? As I said before, recommended lifestyle changes: maintain a healthy weight, maintain daily physical activity, as well as limit the screen time. So, why limit the screen time? So, as we know that due to COVID-19 pandemic, we are stuck to our screens, and we, like, the moment we get up in the morning, we are in front of our screens, and the moment we go back to sleep, we switch off our laptops or mobiles, and then we go to sleep. We don't realize that we are sitting in front of the screen and eating all the time, and we do not know that what type of foods we are eating. We are just handed over the plate that yeah, eat this, but we need to know that what we are eating. And over here, the eating mindfully needs to be incorporated. So closing the screen for maybe half an hour and going and sitting on the proper dining table and eating your food is much better than just eating it in front of the screen, which can harm your health, because you're already sitting so much in so many hours. So getting up, walking a little a distance till your dining table or till the kitchen and arranging your food won't be a problem. Then eat a healthy diet. So what does a healthy diet mean? So replace saturated and trans fats with unsaturated fats, including sources of omega-3 fatty acids. So there are studies shown that hypertension or DASH diet is used. So in DASH diet, the unsaturated fats that include olive oil and those plant-based oils have shown results to reduce hypertension. So this types of oil including in the diet can have a good or positive effect on their health. Then ensure generous consumption of fruits and vegetables and adequate folic acid intake. So fruits and vegetables are rich in fiber. Fiber helps in in reducing the, it has shown that affect the diabetes. So when we have a complex carb or maybe some fruit at the time, in any of the meals, the fiber, it reduces the transit time, and when the transit time reduces, the insulin secretion also comes out very slowly. So the peak of glucose is doesn't go that fast the way it should go with a bread or something like that. And that's the reason why fiber should be incorporated in day-to-day life, as well as when the people who are on weight loss diets, they are given fruits smoothies, then they are given stir-fried veggies only with some herbs. So these veggies, they incorporate and they feel satiated, they feel that yeah, my stomach is full and I don't need to eat anything else. And that's where their hunger pangs are, they stop their hunger pangs, their diet also comes back to a normal routine where they don't try to overeat or anything like that. Then consume cereal produced in their whole grain forms, high fiber form. Then limit consumption of sugar and sugar-based beverages. So sugar-based beverages only contain empty calories and they do not have anything else. So maybe having a alternative for it, having a coconut, like a coconut water, or maybe a fresh fruit juice, it can be strained, or can have the fiber in it. So these things, having a natural sugar should be incorporated, so that good like electrolyte from coconut water, we get electrolyte, so that can be incorporated because it has a added benefit rather than having these sugary beverages. Then limit sodium intake and have a mindful eating approach. So as I've been talking about mindful eating, we should know that what is on a platter. We should know that what are we eating through our hands. We shouldn't blindly just keep eating that the something is given and we are eating and eating and we don't know. And later on, after a year, we see a drastic change into our weight, that yeah, we are overweight by these kgs, and that's the reason and you don't know, like you just say that yeah, I'm sitting and I'm eating, I know what I'm eating. You don't know that what is there in your plate. If you mindfully eat, you would know that there is the components that are in your plate are healthy or not. And as well as, while you're not eating mindfully, you tend to overeat. So while overeating also, you cross your satiating point and you just keep eating and eating, and then you realize that yeah, I've overeaten and I feel little, I feel like vomiting, or I feel nauseatic. And that's the reason how, and even acidity or all these things are like back to back, everything is interconnected. That's the reason how all these approaches, mindful eating approaches, should be imparted in schools, in colleges, in IT sectors, everywhere. Like any possible education can be given to people. So as I was talking about gene nutrient interaction and genetic susceptibility, so why is gene nutrient interaction a very talked topic these days? So there is a good evidence that nutrients and physical activity influence gene expression and have shaped the genome over several million years of human evolution. So genes define opportunities for health and susceptibility to disease. So in a view of changing socioeconomic conditions in developing countries, such added stress may result in exposure of underlying genetic predisposition to chronic diseases. So as I was given an example of obesity. So for example, leptin is a type 1 cytokine mainly secreted by adipocytes to signal the energy state of the body and exerts its functional as a satiety signal in the hypothalamus, which causes. So this leptin gives the signal that we are full, we don't need any more food anymore in the stomach. So if this leptin hormone is being played with, like we keep overeating, so this would cause a rapid weight gain after normal birth weight, resulting in severe early onset obesity. So this can lead to adolescent obesity as well. So when we do this genetic profiling and we get to know that this leptin uh, hormone is it is a very dominant gene in us, or there is some problem going on with it, we can come out with a conclusion, and we can have an outcome as a personalized diet and give to the individual, and then see how does the gene play around when a proper diet is being introduced. So what are the other interventions to prevent chronic diseases? Fortifying food. So food fortification has eliminated iodine deficiency. So this is just an example that iodine can be fortified into food. Then there are various things like probiotics and vitamin A, D. These things can be fortified into the foods, and this can be a proper education about fortified foods can be given, just in case there are some vitamins and minerals that get absorbed in our body in a small amount, but in when the this amount like a vitamin A is fortified into some kind of food, it will increase its nutrition content, and it would give a benefit to the person who is consuming this food. So food fortification should be made a high priority and should be educated well, that if in case you're not able to consume this type of food, consume it in a fortified form of food. So this can be a better intervention than educational intervention, school-based programs. So these days, certain schools have their own canteens and they have their own clinical nutritionists. So over there, she makes the whole days or week's diet plan, understanding the health of the students, understanding that what is their age and what is the growth period, because every growth, every age needs a different type of diet and needs a different type of there's a different mental development, and there is physical development. Students are into physical activities, and these school-based programs can be very beneficial for a students right from their schooling till they leave the school after their board exams. So this can be a really good initiative that can be take up in schools, and the parents can also be educated that this type of food is being given to the students in our school, and it is of utmost safety and it is very healthy. We have a nutritionist, so these things can be made into proper education intervention can be made through knowing that the chronic, telling them that there are various chronic diseases that can emerge from the from the childhood. There can be obesity, or maybe there can be mental disorder like anorexia, and maybe parents are not aware about it. So these things can be cut down, and the students or the child's health can be made a priority. So increasing the availability and reducing the cost of healthy foods. So I really would like to talk about this point. So we all have observed that a burger at McDonald's, we'll get it for almost 50 rupees, or maybe some kind of huge burger in camp also we get it for around just under 100 rupees. But if we try to order a salad in a restaurant, that would cost us maybe around 500. Why is that so? Because people try to incorporate more of they look into their budget. Yeah, ye sasta hai isliye main ye khaunga, because and they don't understand that what is the nutrition composition of that. And apparently Subway has started to incorporate, and Subway, I have seen Subway, so Subway puts a lot of veggies into their buns, and they have started to incorporate tofu and soya paneer and paneer chicken, all of these ingredients into them. But again, people think that the size is so huge that we can't eat in a single sitting. So again, that becomes a blockage for them. So that is the reason why that is the reason why there should be a little cost reduction on healthy foods. And the foods are always delicious. The healthy foods are not supposed to be boiled, as I told earlier. So healthy foods are supposed to be delicious, and they are supposed to be in the budget of a person. So for example, a person is into diet therapy and they're not able to cook it at their home, so they try to buy things from outside and they try to order soup and stuff, but they don't know that in that soup there is a lot of preservatives that are going into. And that is the reason why increasing the availability and reducing the cost of a healthy food should be made a important point. Then promoting healthy food choice and limiting aggressive marketing to children. So healthy food choices should be promoted in ads, as well as aggressive marketing to children. So we generally see that we have our Tom and Jerry, or maybe we have a Chota Beam promoting this type of foods which are not good for the health, and the children, they get into that stubbornness. No, no, ये कार्टून मैंने देखा है, so मुझे ये कार्टून का ही खाना चाहिए. So this type of mentally, the kids are very like, they get susceptible to anything that is shown on the television, and that is the reason why these aggressive marketing should be stopped, and healthy foods should be shown in form of their favorite cartoons, so that they go into that. Yeah, for example, Chota Beam is shown eating kajus and pista and nuts, so they should be taught that ki, yeah, your Chota Beam is strong because he eats this. So this is the reason where the food choices come into picture. They change from day one, and they try to make a lot of interventions which can reduce in leading chronic diseases in our further life. Then how, so coming to our very favorite and latest topic of COVID-19. So how has clinical nutrition played a crucial role in COVID-19? So it has shown in various papers that clinical nutrition, as well as amino acid supplementation, that is a supplement which is very important for our body, and it reduces the inflammation that has been caused due to COVID. So it has shown that during the hospital stay, the improvement in immune system along with a proper diet and amino acid supplementation has ensured that the inflammatory state is kept under control with less release of cytokines. So what happens during COVID-19? COVID-19 is a type of chronic, like a fever. So when we are into a fever, our body goes into stress. So when our body goes into stress, our body needs more energy, more proteins to reduce that inflammation, and so that our body starts taking in into nutrients from the food. So amino acids are essential nutrients for infectious microorganism, and the level of some amino acids such as tryptophan decrease in response to infection, or maybe they even reduce the inflammation. For this reason, they should be restored so as not to experience severe malnutrition. So it has been observed that people who have got discharged from their COVID-19 treatment have reduced tremendous amount of weight. They have reduced tremendous amount of muscular mass. And what is the reason? This is the reason why proper nutrition needs to be administered the day when they are admitted in the hospital. And even when they come back home, a proper diet should be followed. Like, there are various challenges that, pertaining to COVID-19, like there are breathing difficulties, they are not able to breathe properly, they have a constant oxygen mask, or maybe when they are home they're coughing constantly. So these things can affect their eating or drinking day-to-day life. And smell or taste is completely lost because it affects our olfactory neurons, and that's the reason why smell or taste is completely lost, and it can decrease the appetite and desire to eat food. So we generally say that, yeah, when we smell of food, we start to the salivation starts. Why does it happen? Because our mouth and our olfactory nerves are all connected. So the moment the smell or taste is cut off, we feel like we are just chewing on something without any taste or smell. That is the reason they don't even eat anything, or they don't want to listen. They are not even in the state to listen anything. They just say that we are chewing something and we don't feel anything, why should I eat? So that is the mindset that comes into place. Then increased body temperature, which boosts nutritional needs, and inflammatory response reduces appetite and contributes to muscle loss. So I said muscle loss is the main problem of that has been observed during COVID-19. And there is a lot of feeling of tiredness which impairs patients' ability to carry out normal daily activities. So due to a lot of coughing, high fever, no smell and taste, the person is already into a negative balance, and that's the reason they even if they feel like doing something, they can't, because they are so tired. And to make up to all this, a proper nutrition needs to be incorporated at the hospital, as well as when they are discharged. A good discharge plan should be given to them, telling them that please incorporate all the foods, all the immunity boosting foods. Then foods like omega-3 fatty acids, then A, B, C, D, all the vitamins, B12 for immune response, zinc, iron. So these things should be given to them along with a balanced diet at the discharge. Then when they are administered in the hospital, parenteral enteral feeding route should be given to them, because they have a oxygen mask, and due to the oxygen mask they are not able to breathe without it, and that's the reason their oral intake gets affected. So until and unless a patient is not comfortable to sit right up and take a oral intake, till then the feeding, parenteral enteral feeding should be incorporated. Several supplements consisting of omega-3 fatty acids, then supplements consisting of probiotics and fiber supplementation, these should be given through the parenteral or enteral feeding, so that their nutrition balance is kept positive and they do not go into a malnutrition state of the body. So utilization of probiotics is also under evaluation, because as we know, probiotics, it nourishes our gut, and our gut is the second brain, and it is our immunity, and it boosts our immunity. So giving such type of foods would make sure that a COVID-19 patient is kept healthy, and they do not have another disease. Like for example, there are people who have maybe due to a lot of stress on the body, they have gone into they have developed diabetes, or they have developed hypertension. So to avoid this type of chain reaction, we should give a really good nutrition to them while they are in a hospital setup and while they are at home, and it should be managed well. So a few dietary guidelines to strengthen the immune system while we are at home. So use foods from animal sources, for example, fish, then eggs and milk, and then eat fresh fruits, vegetables, cereals, legumes, nuts like almonds and cashew. Consume unsaturated types of fats. Then avoid irregular snacking, because irregular snacking, it just fills up our stomach, and then we don't feel like eating our regular meals, which can affect our day-to-day dietary habits. Then do not overcook vegetables, as it leads to the loss of important nutrients such as vitamins and minerals. And maintain a healthy lifestyle of exercise, meditate, and regular sleep. Adequate sleep will help to support immune functioning. So body needs complete rest. Even though we are on our screens for the entire day, we should maybe try to take out time and give ourselves a little rest. We should do a physical activity, because it's always said that diet and physical activity are like a two palms of the hands, and they go together. So one, if one is cut off, then other won't work, and that's the reason why they say that physical activity and diet should be done side by side. And it should be done in a very religious manner. Even though you're having a bad day, maybe you can do a small set of physical exercise and something like that to maintain a good healthy life balance. Just a second. So to conclude my topic, I would like to say a quote from Harry J. Jason, that the human body has been designed to resist an infinite number of changes and attacks brought about by its environment. The secret of good health lies in successful adjustment to changing stresses on the body. So there is the hidden message behind this is that have a healthy lifestyle, have a good diet pattern, do not skip your meals, have all your meals from your the moment you get up in the morning, have a good physical activity, have a good sleep at night, maintain your proper circadian rhythm. So all these secrets can lead us to a good healthy life, and it can keep the chronic diseases at bay. And as well as the moment a person approaches you about their problems, that yeah, I'm going through this problem, address them well, guide them, tell them that this nutrition you need to have in your lifestyle, you need to make these small changes. Try to convince them that these small changes will lead them to a longer life, and there is nothing harmful from by making little or small changes in a lifestyle. So this is a message that I wanted to put behind this quote, and I would like to thank you all for giving me your time, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a really great session in terms of learning, in terms of approach. So my question is to you. I'll ask
Yeah,
only two questions. So
yeah,
my first
sure.
question to you, how you see this clinical nutrition is helpful for a normal individual who is not aware, and what are the approaches you will do to
Can
approach
you
to
repeat? Can you repeat?
what are the approaches to reach a common individual who is not aware of clinical nutrition, because it is a required part of a daily life.
Okay, so as we know that recently we all have read in papers that there have been huge articles about immunity boosting foods, and people have blindly gone behind them like, yeah, we have haldi at home, we have green tea at home, we'll all drink that, we'll all eat that, and we'll boost our immunity. But they don't know that if they're starting their immunity to, they are starting to eat these foods right now, it won't boost their immunity just quickly within a week. It is a process. So if you have been already eating good food, you're maintaining a good lifestyle since the beginning, and you're not being lazy about maintaining a good health, this can basically this message can be delivered to a common person, that like taking this COVID-19, people have learned many things. They have learned how to prepare food at home, they have cut down the junk foods. So taking this message, the COVID-19 message, this example, they can be approached and they can be told that why nutrition is important and why clinical nutrition in part of all the diseases plays an important role. So we know that food binds us, food keeps us together, food brings families and friends together. But we also know that food can create a lot of problems. If we overeat, it can lead to obesity. If we undereat, it can lead to many vitamins and minerals deficiency. So this type of education and creating a awareness within them, since like as I said, that educational programs can be conducted in various schools, and though like kids can absorb all the information, and they go home, they tell their parents that we were taught this at our school. And that's how the parents come to know that, yeah, we need to give this type of food to our kids, and that's how the message gets carried. Then even in IT sectors, there are a lot of vending machines that the people just go and eat, and they don't know that, yeah, we do have our tea breaks, and we have our some kind of break, and we go and roam around, but still I'm putting on weight. Why are you putting on weight? You do not know that reason. So that is why a common person should be given knowledge in any aspects the it can. So like a common person reads a newspaper, they go through Google, they know a lot of information, and from there we can like put up a lot of information to them, that eat these kinds of foods, it can lead to these things. And that's how a common person can be given a good information, that a clinical like nutrition component as such is very important in their life. And even people go to their routine checkups, and the moment the doctor over after the routine checkup, and the second day you come back and see that there is some kind of you get a results, and they say the go to the physician, and if the physician say go to the dietitian, then only they go to the dietitian. By themselves they never go to the dietitian. So until and unless they don't get a red signal, they never go to the dietitian, and they never approach. So that is the reason why pre-education is very important in any aspects of life. Even in societies or anywhere you live, this kind of information can be imparted, who has been learning about nutrition since so many years and giving their own experience. So this can be a good way to impart clinical nutrition education to the common people. I hope I answered your question.
It is clearly explained that it is required to have a proper education, and the tools should be taken care by the different organizations, NGOs,
Yes.
and the persons who are learning this field, the clinical nutritionists. So with this, my last question would be, what would be your parting thoughts who are going to watch and who are watching this session, that how it is helpful for them?
Okay, so those who are watching, like right now, those who are already in the meeting, like my mother, my friends. So I myself have like observed thoughts, like I have been around many people and they have been talking about thoughts. So the moment I say that I'm doing nutrition dietetics, they are like, "Arey ha, gym mein job hoga, and then gym mein you will give diets." They don't know the other aspects of this. So the ones who are watching this, I would like them to know that clinical nutrition is a very vague field, and there are many opportunities here to explore for, and knowing the right nutrition balance in your day-to-day life can lead you to a longer life, and that is the only secret to healthy living. The moment you stop doing one thing, it can lead to other things, and that is why we need to know that whatever we eat is good to us and it is not affecting our body in a wrong way. Also, practicing physicians should also be given a good knowledge that, at times what happens, the physicians say that, eat this or eat that. They really don't know that what is the reason behind it. So it is a better way that if a physician directly directs or gives a recommendation to the patient that, you go and look into a nutritionist or dietitian, she or he will guide you through this process, so that message can be conveyed in a well manner. And even there has been teams where nutritionists play a really crucial role, and it can be a very good approach to be in contact with a nutritionist and discuss the things which a physician is not aware about, because at times there are people who approach a physician knowing, considering that it is some illness, a physician will only try to handle it, but at times it is the other way around. It is another story that that case was supposed to be handled by a nutritionist. So knowing this two difference should be like, it will come with proper awareness within the people. And that is my takeaway message, that knowing your facts is much better than rather than just thinking about things which would not be right. So yeah.
Thank you so much for your approach and understanding to share with all of us. And it is really blessed and insightful session to have a general
Thank you for
approach.
this opportunity. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And it's great to, impart our knowledge to people who are already, like, we know that we live in India and we have a lot of cultures, we have a lot of food and spices, and people are connected with us through that. And if we keep that connection healthy, it is beneficial for us as well. So it is great to impart our knowledge in this field to everyone, that, the food is the only thing that keeps us alive throughout our day, and that should be made worth of. So yeah, that's the only motive behind, talking to people regarding this.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who have joined this and who are going to watch this. If anything is there, we do share her details in the description of the video. So you can approach her through email ID of hers. So
Yeah, sure. You can share my mail ID, and I think I've given you my contact also. You can share them if they have any doubts or maybe anything to approach for.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.